Hello and welcome to Mentorship Masterminds, the PMI podcast where we deep dive into the world of innovation, leadership, and personal growth. I'm your host Mahesh Deshpande, and I'm thrilled to bring another captivating episode of Mentorship Masterminds. In each episode, I talk to an industry leader or a seasoned mentor on a topic that we think is instrumental in shaping our next generation leaders. And today we are going to talk about project management leadership. This podcast is sponsored by PMI San Francisco Bay Area chapter, and we are recording it at the vibrant Golden Gate University campus in the heart of downtown San Francisco. Today we are going to talk about project management leadership. Project management as a field, there are numerous areas where project managers can grow, but in today's topic we will be exploring the different avenues that project managers can aspire for to grow into leadership roles. To talk to us about this topic, we have a very special guest with us today. We have Anup Deshpande. Anup is Director of Project Management at Stryker's Robotic Division. He has been a Chief of Staff to the CEO at Scalable. He is a distinguished speaker, a keynote speaker who has given many lectures on project management, leadership, agile development, and so on. He has a distinguished honor of being the board president of both PMI Silicon Valley chapter and PMI San Francisco chapter. And he has been guiding aspiring project managers on project management topics. Anup, welcome to Mentorship Masterminds.
Thank you, Mahesh. I'm glad to be here.
So, Anup, we would like to start today's discussion on project management leadership. But before we talk about the topic, we would like to know more about your journey. You have played various project management leadership roles across different organizations. Some of our aspiring project managers, when they look at your profile, they say that you're living their dream, right? So talk to us about your journey. How did you get to where you are today?
Sure. I'm an engineer at heart. Completed my Bachelor of Science in Engineering Electrical. So, of course, I started working in the non-IT industry way back when. It was a typical electrical job, but I think I had that aspiration to become a leader. I didn't know what to do next. And, you know, as it unfolds, the future has it that I started getting into, software development, being a manager for developers. And from there, my journey of project management started because, any project has to be delivered in the right way. So with a structured mentality I have, a structured organizing capabilities I have inherently, it was easy for me to get into project program management. Now, as we started working together with the team, I realized that there are lots of gaps that I can actually fill because of my technology experience that I've been gathering, and that helped me grow to the levels that I am today, looking at the technology experience, working with people, influencing, risk management capabilities, and overall organizational capabilities. So I think these are the few points that actually grew me to a level what I am today.
That's awesome, Anup. Many of our audience members today are program managers themselves who are playing TPM roles or project management leaders in various organizations. But when it comes to the career growth and moving up the career ladder, in the field of project management, many a times it feels like there is a glass ceiling where people don't know what to do beyond 5-15 years of program management experience. If you look at other business organizations, let's pick marketing for example, there's somewhat a clear defined path starting from an analyst, manager, director, VP of marketing to even say a chief marketing officer. But when it comes to project management, not many people are aware of the different areas of leadership opportunities that are present in this field, and that is what I want to talk to you about in this podcast, right? But can you talk about the glass ceiling for project management and what's your take, what's your perspective on this?
I personally think that there is no glass ceiling. Okay. I just think that it's a perception, and I had that perception too. So I totally empathize with people thinking that it's a glass ceiling. I really think that project management is a life skill that you can use to grow in your career, and whatever that career may be. As an example, I tried with my career to be a technical program manager. and I could become one because I had the technology background. Anyone can become one by working with the team really well, right? So if they try to understand, get into the domain, and you start understanding that, right? So overall, I saw that you can become a domain level program manager or project manager. You can also become a technical level program manager as you wish. Now, but when you say glass ceiling, I really hope you're talking about, going up the ladder, right? So going up the ladder is special. And I have coached quite a few people who would acknowledge this, that they were struggling with that. I was struggling with that. I got some good mentors in the journey who could tell me how to break that ceiling. And there are various ways. One is to just get promoted. How do you get promoted? A lot of people have that struggle, right? So promotion after a certain level you would not get until others acknowledge your work. And they might be acknowledging your work privately, which doesn't help anybody, right? So just push them to acknowledge what you really are working on to your manager, right? If your manager knows that there are other 5 technology, operations, IT, all these people love working with you and how you contribute to overall success, I think you start getting promoted, right? So that's glass ceiling number 1. There are many other glass ceilings that you're talking about, right? And I think you referred to how do you carve out path to get to, first of all, like a senior manager or director level, and I spoke about that. There are other ways, right? If you see that in a particular organization or your skill set needs to be one level up, then you can actually go into business operations, right? You can become an operations manager. You don't need to be called a project manager because you're using that day-to-day skill. The others could be chief of staff, right? These are almost unexplored avenues for project manager, but I really think project manager has the best skill set to become a proxy for the leader, right? In this case, chief of staff to the CTO, CIO, CEO, all of these things, you basically need to have a hat of that leader and understand that you proxy for them. You basically are the brand ambassador for this leader. What would this leader do if they were present? And if those words, that lingo, that nature of experience, you can demonstrate, the leaders don't need to be everywhere. They cannot be everywhere. They cannot clone themselves, right? So that's the time the chief of staff to them would really help. And if you can show that experience, which cannot come overnight, it will take several years to get there, but you will get it ultimately because you have that path in your mind. And that's how I started my journey, and I've been exploring these things with my career.
You spoke about mentorship. I'm going to come back to that, and also to chief of staff. That's something that I really want to deep dive into. But let's also talk about business operations, right? You spoke about their different pathways, and business operations manager as one of them, right? What are the skill sets that are different for a business operations manager when compared to a technical program manager? And how does one, if I'm in a TPM role today, how do I navigate a path towards business operations manager?
Sure. So business operations, just like project management, by the way, every company, the definition of a program manager, project manager is different.
Is different.
And people who have 10 plus years of experience can vouch for that. It's totally different. So in the same way, operations, business operations is a very loosey-goosey term. It's used in a very different way in various companies. But the companies that I have worked with, the contribution that I have been honored to provide are more about the domain knowledge, the technology knowledge, the people knowledge, and the location knowledge, the budget knowledge. These are the 5 things. Now, what is so special about it? It's actually project management. If you try to do traditional project management, or if you go into agile management, if you want to go into that leadership career, you will have to anyway work with these things and hone your skills on what is this company into, right? If you don't know who your customers are, what are they looking for, and why am I able to sell these goods to the customer, then it's a moot point. You will never be able to grow. Budget. What are the budgets? What is the revenue coming in? What is the budget for coming up with new technology? You got to know about this. Blended rate for people, right? Blended rate for people means your staff has salaries. You don't want that to be known to anybody. But there's something called blended rate, which means a blended rate for the Bay Area, blended rate for US, blended rate for Austin, blended rate for India, China, whatever that is, right? And when I say that, it's only for that company. It's a blended rate. Once you know that, you'll be able to budget what it will take to staff that company, that project with the right people. Now, if someone says, oh, we have a lower budget, I don't need to cut people. I can use a location strategy, and we already have a retention issues, right? So, for example, there's always that attrition. So HR always talk about attrition rates. You got to know what is retention, what is attrition, right? So if there is an attrition of 5% every year, you can actually, when you have that attrition, you can hire people at low cost areas with the same skill set.
That's why you see jobs moving from San Francisco to maybe Austin or Florida, Costa Rica, cost relocation.
There you go.
Makes
there
sense.
you go, right? So that way the project doesn't get affected, and there are various ways to do it, right? It depends on the domain and the kind of work. So can you completely offshore it at a completely different time zone, or you want the same time zone? And that's why people started going into LATAM, because they are in the same time zone, so they can work Pacific time zone or Central time zone, perfect, right? And they cost less, and we're still boosting the economy of that country or that region anyway. So it's not like lowering the wages, but it's basically lowering the cost and still employing the same number of people.
So the way I understand it is more than like the iron triangle of project management. In addition to that, focus more on people aspect of managing is critical for a operations manager role.
That's right. So iron triangle, as you know, scope, budget, and schedule, right? So we worry about budget. Well, because there's a fourth part of this rectangle, and that's location. And we figured that out. Bay Area has figured this out 50 years ago, like maybe more, right? That we know this, and that's why we see the influx of various different kind of people working from various different regions. And then pandemic actually played an amazing part there to provide that confidence to the organization that having people at different location doesn't cause harm. In fact, it brings people together, and the solutions that come out have the right kind of diversity, inclusion, equity built into it by default. And these are all correlated.
Thank you for sharing that, Anup. Your experience reminded me of one of the experience I had with one of my clients about pandemic, where pre-pandemic the leadership for one of my clients wanted to ensure people are working remotely, and there was a huge pushback that this is not going to work, like we can't work like this. I want my team to be sitting co-located and sitting next to me. And then the pandemic hit, and then the pandemic itself made a case for the leaders that their strategy is working.
That's right.
So thanks for sharing that. Let's talk about Chief of Staff. How did you become Chief of Staff to the CEO? And what skills are needed to move into Chief of Staff role? How is that different? What are the areas or skills that are valued in a Chief of Staff role compared to an Agile program manager?
I would say just the scale is different. The confidence level is different.
Okay.
The scale is different in a way that what does CEO worry about? What keeps them awake at night? What keeps them awake at night? Customer satisfaction, right? So customer obsession in a way, right? The second one is about getting more customers, going into new segments of customers. That's what keeps them away. Third thing is we're promising so many things, a lofty new product to these customers, forward-looking, right, statements. Are we going to perform? Are we going to get these deliveries from people? And that's where people, project management comes in handy for this, right? So this is what they really worry about. And the next they worry about is, herding the cats. Like, there are way too many things people are working on, but do they have the right kind of priority? So there are lots of different ways to help them sleep at night. Few things can be done easily with tools, but as one of my mentors said, if tools is the answer, you're not asking the right question. So the issue is the tool answer for anything? Actually not. But can it ease the pains of the concept that you're trying to imbibe in your employees? Absolutely. Right? So for OKRs, and I will not get into it until you want me to, but OKRs can actually bring that really good way, to look at what the priority is at a company level, right? So can a chief of staff kind of role think about being a CEO and what does CEO need? And those are the things that you need to get. And I really think a project manager has all these things. They just need to be scaled at a level. They need to have a different kind of confidence, not fake confidence, but the real one, because they know what the business is. They know what the customers are, what the customers are asking, what the deadlines are, what have we promised to the customer, are our products get into the right shape, do we have the right people, if not, do we need to hire those people in the right place so that we don't bleed too much, but we get the right level of product maturity and product quality at the right time.
Makes sense. I'll get to the OKRs, but before that, what does a day-to-day for a chief of staff look like, right? There is a lot of mystery to that role, if I may say that. And chief of staff is not just to the CEO, right? It can be to any C-suite executive or any VP for that matter. Is it more of just scheduling their calendars, or you get to work on projects that are important to the executive? And are there like any secret projects that the chief of staff drives? Can you talk about that?
So managing their calendar, actually not. So managing the calendar is usually a administrative assistant that would do, and they have the right skills to do it. So I would never take that on, because that will be a full-time job in any way. So, but what I really do is become consultant and advisor to that leader, right? Because they also want to bounce some ideas that may not go outside of the room until they become concrete. And they want you to be that sounding board. And are you just a sounding board, like, are you a yes man? Then you're not in the right role, because you'll never be able to make enough contribution to make them grow, make the organization grow, right? What you really want to have is grow your backbone and say some things are not right, they're not right. Because the CEO, CTO, whoever they are, they're so busy in their own role that sometimes they don't understand the differences between how the things are working downstream versus what they get to know. You are the trusted person for them that will make things black and white for them. That will tell them, this is not how people are telling you. The reality is, this will not take 3 months, this will take 4.5 months. It's a reality irrespective of what slide decks, beautiful slide decks that they're looking at, right? Yeah. Someone that they're confident that if this person is saying it, there's a truth to it. And for that, you cannot sleep at night. Now you have to be on top of every little thing that is going on, right? Every little strategy that is being worked out, every strategy that is failing. How would you know something is failing if people know that you are the ear of the CEO, right? They won't share that with you. So you have to be part of them. You have to be part of the teams. You should be friends with them for them to open up and tell you and trust you. And of course, there's a trust, then you should not break that trust.
Yep.
Right? So if there's a trust, you should just be able to extract the truth out of it and not push them under the bus.
What kind of projects do these chief of staff roles play? Are these some projects that CEO has in mind but there is no budget for it? Or are these more related to mergers and acquisitions related kind of project? Like what kind of projects do these, is there a specific category or these can be generic projects across?
It's basically any kinds of projects that a leader is looking for. And again, I want to say leader because it's not just CEO, right? There's a CTO, CIO, CPO, you name it. So depending on that also, right? Depending on that leader's role, you really figure out what you would get into. But most often, I have seen that these roles do entail some secret projects, and these secret projects are to win. These secret projects are not vicious. These secret projects basically are something that, hey, we can't publish this yet, but can we really go double the speed by doing this in terms of satisfying customers or getting better revenues, more revenues that we are lagging today, right? I cannot go and freak out people to say, hey, we are lagging revenues, but how can I compensate for that and make sure the company is afloat and doing much better than needed? People, again, like how do I bring down the cost? Like any leader would say that, how do I bring down the cost? That's where my location strategy comes up, right? Can I use AI tools to have my people do something else, do a better job where the humans are needed, right? Can I replace some of those mundane work streams through AI? That's the everyday topic in those corner offices today.
So you need, what I'm inferring is you need to be a program manager, but also be someone who can think like a CEO.
Yes, right.
Wear that hat, and so that you can build that rapport with your executive leadership and drive projects.
That's right.
And I'm also, what I'm inferring is this role requires a lot of cross-functional collaboration.
Yep.
So can you talk a bit more about the cross-functional collaboration for this role? How does that span across the different BUs or across different teams, the criticality of that?
Sure. So a functional leader, a stream leader, they have their own tunnel visions, right? So when I say tunnel vision, they're seeing what their path is, but they're not able to see the broader vision of what that whole organization is trying to get to, right? So they're really good at their skill sets. If they are people leaders, they know how to get the work done, but no one is thinking across. And program project managers are the best people to think across. They have that inherent skill set of thinking through risks and working through cross-functional teams. So when I say cross-functional teams, I took a pause there because that's what a program manager is. Now, if you look at chief of staff of something, they are cross-functional organizational. So they are going beyond a boundary of teams, and they are the ones who would say, hey, this other organization that we work with, they may be marketing, they may be legal, they may be communications, you name it, right? Do they have the same priorities as us? If not, this project might get delayed. How can I work with the leaders in those organizations and get the similar priority or get the priorities high enough that I start getting results, I start getting the right eyes into those projects that matter the most for the organization?
That's powerful. So there's some angle of competitive market intelligence also probably that comes into play.
Absolutely, and I think if done right, it's absolutely great, because when done right is the most important statement there, because I've seen companies go down with the same skill sets because they are not doing the right thing. But if you have the customer's competitive edge, if you're thinking about customer obsession, if you're doing everything about a new segment, a new customer base, satisfying your existing customers, you cannot go wrong.
Makes sense. Anup, also I'm assuming strategic alignment would be a key role here, right? Based on what you're mentioning, like CEO has a vision, and that vision needs to be percolated down 5 levels down, so that everybody is aligned to it, right? And you spoke about OKRs. What role does the chief of staff play in ensuring that those OKRs are communicated? Let's talk about OKRs first for the benefit of our audience. Like, what are OKRs, and also what the role does the chief of staff play in ensuring that these are communicated across the organization?
Absolutely, a great question. I think that is the first principle of aligning the whole organization, getting ducks in a row. They're not ducks. People are like cats. It's like herding cats, right? So how do you change them from cats to ducks is through OKRs. Seriously. And again, in the past, most all the organizations I've worked with have goals, right? It's nothing wrong to have goals. Some other companies have KPIs, okay, that's perfectly fine as well. OKR is best suited to today's companies because they're about objectives and key results, right? So objectives are nothing but goals. They're no different, right? But we're not talking only about what, we're talking about how. Because if you look at the pyramid, only the topmost triangle is thinking about what or why. Rest of the 2 or 3 layers in the Maslow's triangle are all thinking about how in their own respective ways, right? So how needs to be articulated really well. Now, when I say how, you don't need to get into someone else's job and tell them what to do, right? If you're a technical team and if you're a scrum master, project manager, product owner, you don't want to start creating user stories now to say, hey, create a table and create a column here and get the rows right there. It's a wrong way to do it. But if you go up there and see what it really means is objective, as an example, when the security is at the most needed feature of any organization, as an example, if the company at the top decides, hey, we need to be serious about security, and they say security is the top priority, if the CEO is saying that, what does that mean? Because everyone else is like, yeah, I understand, and what do I do every day for that? If you don't answer that, it will never be a reality. So you have to carve out a path for employees to understand what does that really mean. If right at the top, security is the top priority, then senior VPs and VPs need to think about what would it take to make security the top priority. Someone would think about, like IT would think about, hey, these are the tools I can bring, like Black Duck and Veracode and best practices. Some others might think about how do I implement the right stuff in a software company and so on, right? So it has to go down. Now, the key results is something that bring the objectives to fruition. What is a key result? Key results are most of the time what can we really do in next 3 months. So there's a timeline attached to it. There's a deadline attached to it. And when there's a deadline attached to it, if you don't give company people a path of how do you process that? Do you process it in a way that what can I achieve 100% is what that PR is, the key results are? Then that's a wrong way to do it. Because that means you're going to sandbag all the people saying, what is bare minimum I can accomplish? Because if I can't, then I won't get the bonus, or I will be thrown out of the company, or my performance is going to be bad. You need to remove all of those aspects aside and say, hey, let's really stretch ourselves and imagine in a way that even if you accomplish 70%, some companies would say 80%, but I've seen really good companies talking about 70% is the bar that you should be able to achieve. That means you need to plan for 100%, and if you achieve 70%, yay to you, right? Because you're stretching yourself anyway. Instead of a deadline that you say, let's achieve 100%, otherwise we fail. Okay, your 100% is going to be really 50% of what you could achieve by saying 100% and 70% is good enough.
Yeah, because it's not easy, right?
It's not easy. It's not easy. How do you ask people to stretch themselves? Not push them. I'm talking about pick and roll. I'm not talking about pushing, because we have done 75 years of pushing and not great was achieved anyway. And now we see all these new companies that have figured out that push is not the right way to do it. Instead, what you really need to do is pick and roll, right? So pick and roll is like, I pick this accountability, I pick this responsibility, and the kind of results we saw were astonishing.
Anup, I'm enjoying this conversation so much and learning so much from all this informative. I also want to talk one aspect related to this role about communication, right? Communication is key for any program manager role. But how does this change when you are in a leadership role? When you are talking to executives, to leaders, what are the aspects of communication that are different when compared to communication as a TPM, as a technical program manager at a starting, who had just started or is probably moving into a leadership role? How does the communication vary?
Not knowing this aspect, you're bringing an absolutely great question, because not knowing this can really get your profile to a low level if you don't have the right practices in place. Now, we all know, right? Try to grab time on your manager's calendar. It's a difficult one because they're busy. You try to grab calendar like half hour on your manager's manager calendar, it becomes super tough. You try to go up there, it becomes a Herculean task.
Yep.
What does that tell you? It tells you that these people's job is to make a decision every moment they're having a discussion with somebody. They're chartered to do that. Now, if you understand that, they have no time for listening to your beautiful stories, to be very genuine. That's what I have learned over time, right? So styles are completely different as a program manager or a director and a chief of staff, in a way that if I am a program manager, I have been groomed in a way that when I go and show anybody a new process, as an example, because process is something that we're good at, so we inculcate a new process. So for that, what we have to show in our slides is like, what is the gap today? Then, what are the challenges because of the gap? And because of the challenges, how do we work through our various challenges? What action items do we need to take in order to work through those challenges and bridge those gaps? And what will happen when we take those actions? What will be the results? This is a typical way of convincing a new process to the organization as a TPM, a program manager. You have to turn this completely reverse on the head when you're working with the CEO, CTO, any leader, anybody up there. And I've learned this hard way, seriously, because I started telling stories and they were like, okay, wait a second. What do you want me to do? Can you tell me what is my action? Is this FYI? Or do you want me to take action? Like, they're confused because the way their brains are trained is like any information coming to them, the first light bulb is, where can I help? Where can I help? They are almost impatient for that. So when I figured out the reverse way to it, when I meet the executives in an elevator or between the two meeting rooms that they are going into, right? A lot of people say, I don't get their time. And I have enough time for me because they're just moving from one meeting room to the other. And I just go with them with their pace and say, I need a decision from you. I need 4 additional people in my project because that project will not deliver something that you think they will deliver within a month. And stop, because their other meeting room has come. If they are not okay, if they don't understand why you need 4 people, they're going to look at you and say, can you explain me why you need those 4 people? I have a gap, I have challenges, and those challenges can be taken care of through these action items. You have that, right? Already, you grab their attention first, and then they have time. They have time for you. So just head over heels, completely reverse it.
Instead of narrating the story of your remarkable work and how you got there, start with the impact, why they should care about it.
Absolutely.
Then tell your story of why the impact or how the impact is.
You don't even have to tell them the story unless they ask you.
Okay.
That's the key. That's where they will love you, because many of the times they already know something, right? They're going into meetings and carefully watching what is going on. So they might have a hunch that somebody is going to come and ask me for more people. Ask me for more servers, ask me for more budget, ask me for various different help in influencing some other organization. They already know that something might come their way. And if you ask them that, oh, you are that person, you'll say, not 4, I was thinking about it, but you can get 2.5. And by the way, in next month or so, you will get that one other person on that job. And they're done. You are done too. Why do you want to tell them the thing that they know better? You don't want to go there. But if they don't know, they're going to ask, because they're not going to give you their attention unless they need to, right? And you're going to get the result anyway. And if you're not going to get it, you're not going to get it even with the story, because you couldn't attract their attention enough.
Makes sense. This is so powerful. Thank you, Anup, for sharing. I want to switch gears and talk about agile and artificial intelligence. For program management leaders, especially in the tech industry, and now irrespective of industry, right, there's a lot of focus on agile management. Not everyone is familiar with agile, and also the organization thinks that they're implementing agile, but they do not have the framework or the methodology or the mindset to implement agile, right? So if I as a leader go there and work and try to convince someone to bring in agile, can you talk about some of the challenges and that might come in the way of implementing agile?
Yeah, this is a broad question, but I can, quickly, if I have to tell you, is that many of the organizations actually do not need engineer, scrum master, product owner level trainings, because you give them a 2-day training and they'll be able to do fairly well on what their job is. I really think the organizations actually fail because of the leaders who do not understand what is agile mindset, and that is a bigger problem. So agile mindset is something that will reflect everywhere, if they don't have it or if they have it. If they don't have it, you will see that the organization is pretty complacent with the hybrid approach that they are proud of. And when I hear hybrid, I fear a failure of agile practices, that they are actually happy in the mushy middle of being in the traditional world as well as the agile world. And they don't know how to traverse towards the end of agility that will bring a huge change in that organization. Some of the things that I see as an example is leaders not wanting to change their practices. As a simple example, if your sales and marketing is still going to customers and committing them dates, firm dates for features, there's a huge alarm right there, right? Because the first agility principle is ask the teams, what would it take to get to that point? Be realistic, because guess what? Even if you confirm a date to your customers, you're going to either fail or come up with a product that is not really good quality. So you're going to suffer either way. You pay now or you pay later. You can push the can down the road, but you cannot get rid of it.
Anup, I would like to talk about artificial intelligence. Coming back to your current role where you are director of program management for artificial intelligence at Stryker's robotic division, right? There are a lot of new roles in program management, product management that are related to artificial intelligence for obvious reasons. Where we see how AI is changing the field, not just the field of program management, but entire industries are being changed, right? Program managers are interested in moving and learning about artificial intelligence and playing roles and joining companies or divisions within their organizations where AI work is being implemented. So my question to you is, as a program manager, if I am a TPM or a TPM lead and trying to move into AI projects, what skill sets are valued, are required for me to move into those roles? Do I have to learn about LLMs, about natural language processing? How deep does a program manager needs to get into it? Or just having a basic knowledge of NLP works? Like how does one get into AI program management?
That's a great question. I'm just fortunate, number one, that I joined a Dre organization at Stryker, and it happens to be a AI business unit, which is great. I'm learning a lot. I won't be able to speak anything about what we're doing there, but I can talk about some of the from the outside world, outside in kind of thing, right? So I see that everyone was wowed about a year, 2 years ago when ChatGPT came out, right?
Absolutely.
And we are wowed, like, what can we do with this? I think we're still grappling with that question on it has been exceeding our expectation in whatever we are trying to do. And it's going to grow like really crazy, from text-based to images to videos, and at the same time we would not know what is real, what is fake anymore, right? So few things that I would say would help you to get into AI side of the world is, don't get stopped getting wowed by what it can do, but also become more rational about what it should do. Also think about how is it doing it, right? How the AIs work. If you understand LLMs, how do LLMs work? If you understand that, then how can you create that kind of intelligence for your own organization? Can you create a model which can learn within the organization and can replace all the mundane work inside the organization so that the human beings can do more intelligent work, right? That should be the way to think about AI. In every organization, it's a jolt to what AI can do. Whatever companies are adopting AI are growing leaps and bounds faster than other companies who are not. So every company is trying to get in there. But at this time, I think it is pretty, starting phase of AI, and there are huge number of jobs opening up.
Yes.
One thing I can tell you is that do not discredit it thinking it's a fad and it will go away. When the internet first came in, the same thing. Some of the CEOs have been interviewed on that, and they were saying this is temporary, it will go away. It did not. What happened? They went away, right? They got washed. So don't be prey to that notion. And if I can ask you this, right? You would have 10 plus, 20 plus years of experience. Are you doing the same thing that you were doing 10 years ago?
No.
Were you doing the same thing 5 years ago?
Probably no.
Exactly. So then why do we think that for next 15 years we want to do the same thing? Well, the skills do not change. The outcomes, the outputs change. The way you think is changed. The tools are going to change. So get ahead of the game. Get on top of the game by understanding these new tools and trying to learn from it. But at the same time, if you're working for the enterprise, make sure that you're not giving out data. Right? Every query you're putting in, every information you're putting out there is going public. You cannot let that happen because there's an IP, intellectual property, of every company, right? So you cannot do that. That slows you down. So if you're a bigger company not sitting in a garage, you have to think about this.
Absolutely.
Right? So the very first wave that you're going to see is, how do I use all this public knowledge from the various GPTs of the world, whether it's Llama 2, Gemini, or GPT 3.4, 5, or 4.0, many others coming up, right? Da Vinci. So how do I make use of them? What are they powerful at? How can I use these models to train my own model so that I can get more and more accurate results? Because as a company, you cannot, as a simple example, you cannot have customer support using your ChatGPT and get hallucinated with the responses, and they respond with the liability. Yeah. The customers are going to just make use of those statements and come back at you that your customer support told me to make use of this, and when we used it, there was a disaster, right? It's a kind of off-label use of the product or off-label use of the software that you have built. So you cannot do that. Yeah. Do you know these parameters? If you know these parameters, then you are on the right path of getting into some kind of AI projects later on, right? So show these skills. And I would say some of the other peripheral aspects of AI. AI is not like something that you can touch and feel. It's everywhere, right? Spatial computing, is coming up, where we're talking about, extended reality, mixed reality, and that's where also there's a lot of AI being used. So think about that. Think about many others that have been published. So all of those are using those aspects. So I think try to get into those kind of projects.
Like try to learn about it and focus more on the use cases rather than getting bogged down by technology and technical details.
Correct. Don't become just a user. Try to become a part of the game.
Thanks, Anup. Thanks for sharing. So I want to close the circle and bring it back to on a personal level and talk about the role of mentorship. Mentorship is important. Everybody understands that, and program managers are trying to seek mentors who can help them move up their career ladder. Can you talk about the role of mentorship in your journey, and how do you encourage our audience members? What's your message for them to find mentors? How can they find mentors and seek mentorship to move up the career ladder?
Great question there. I wouldn't have been what I am today without all those mentors that have shaped my career. I'm totally in depth of what I have got, and many a times it's coincidence, it's fluke, it's written. I just don't know. But I found mentors in every aspect of my life, and I super duper thank them for that. And because I realized this, that it wouldn't have been possible without my mentors. And let me tell you, the mentor is not for life. Mentor is for life, but they are not mentoring you for life. They're mentoring you to get to that next level of the ladder, and then they wean out. They still become your friends, but they wean out. Another new mentor comes up, right? And then you start getting those Yodas on the path that will show you the next level of horizon, and then wean out. Then when you're standing there, your next horizon shows up and you don't know what to do, another one will show up. So be on the lookout for that. The other thing is, when you are seeking for those new horizons, remember, you are seeing those horizons because of the effort of someone else. Try to bring it forward, pay it forward, become a mentor. Right? If you don't become a mentor for the next generation, next 1 or 2 or 3, you're not actually paying the debt of the people who actually made you what you are. Absolutely. And I totally am invested on that. That's why I have a lot of mentees. Again, they wean out after some time, and I never ask them to be always in touch with me, because I've served my purpose. Totally fine. And they become really good friends once a year maybe, right? And it's totally fine, right? But when I see those questions, that actually made me to think about, how do I articulate a response for something that people ask me? And that has made a high bandwidth communication. Over time, I realized what they're really asking, what they're not asking, but they're seeking, or they don't even realize what to ask, right? Those are the aspects you, being a mentor, start understanding. And when you understand that at work, those things actually play a part, because now you understand the bigger picture really quickly. And your managers, your leaders love that. And so if you take nothing from this, pay it forward is the mantra everyone should look at, because otherwise we're not helping the community grow. And I think we had that debt. Everyone has that debt.
This is so powerful, Anup, and fresh perspective of not just rely on one mentor, but have mentors in your career at different points for different purposes. This is truly powerful. My last question to you, Anup, if you can look at the camera and tell our audience if there is one piece of advice that you would like are aspiring program management leaders who are trying to move into different roles, different paths, business operations leader or chief of staff to executive leadership. What's your one piece of advice that you want to share with them?
The very first thing I realized early in life is there is no fast growth. There's nothing called just walk and sit on that next chair. There's nothing like that. You have to earn every bit of it. And when I say earn, not every time it's success that you earn. What you're really earning is the learning of it, right? And learning means success and failures. And to be, truthful, I have learned from my failures more than my success. So whatever you're doing today, trying to find a job and not getting one, you're learning. Don't worry about it. Okay? You will get that first job like everyone has gotten. No worries about it. You may not get the best job that you're looking for today. That doesn't mean tomorrow is not yours. Tomorrow is absolutely yours. You will get turbocharged. As soon as you get something, you get more confidence, you get more success and learnings on the way, and you will become successful, and hopefully you'll become mentors for the next generation.
Anup, thank you so much for your time and for this sharing valuable insights. Thank you for being on Mentorship Masterminds.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning into today's episode of Mentorship Masterminds. I hope this episode inspires you to move further into your leadership journey, move an inch closer to becoming a better version of yourself and moving up the career ladder. Keep listening to Mentorship Masterminds. We have similar amazing podcast episodes on different topics related to program management, leadership, and innovation. Keep listening to Mentorship Masterminds. With me, your podcast host, Mahesh Deshpande. Until next time, keep thriving, keep inspiring.